Good morning, welcome to Sabino Canyon. Today we're going to be taking a tour of the places that Brother Branham came, and he did come here very often. The first time that we've ever had any report of Brother Branham coming to Sabino Canyon was in January of 1963. It was that time that Brother Branham had moved to Tucson because of a vision that he'd had of his road being widened in his home on Ewing Lane in Jeffersonville, Indiana. And Brother Branham has always loved Arizona, but since he already had his own home paid for, he had his own church where he could go and preach freely the message of the hour, he didn't really feel it necessary to come, but the Lord spoke to him and told him to come. So in obedience to the Holy Spirit, Brother Branham came to Arizona. He already had some friends here, Brother Gene Norman, Brother Tony Stromay, and different ones that already had moved here. And so what he did is that he came to this spot that we're now standing in January, like I said, of 63. And we know this because Sister Branham told us this story. This is about the second week. They've already put the kids in school in Tucson, and now they come up here, and him and Sister Branham together. At the time that they came, there used to be a restroom right over here in this area here. And it was a men and women's restroom, and Sister Branham said that Brother Branham got out of the car, went over to the restroom, and proceeded up a game trail. And he went up this way just like this. And we're going to be looking into the sun, so it's going to be kind of hard to tell. But there's actually a road was going to continue by the WPA in 1933. And the WPA was going to make the road go further, but they decided to stop right here. Brother Branham chose to go up this game trail. He went up and high into the jagged rocks. And this story is related in the message God in Simplicity and different messages throughout the seals and after the seals. And it was during that time, Brother Branham talked about how that he went up, he was seeking the Lord, and he was praying, and as he was praying, he raised his hands to worship the Lord Jesus, and a sword struck his hand. He talked quite extensively about what happened, but then we find him saying these words. He said, "A voice spoke, and it boomed throughout the canyon." And he said it like this: "This is the king's sword. This is your third pull." And Brother Branham related many stories in regards to that, and that is one of the many incidences that took place here in Sabino Canyon. Another incident that took place in Sabino Canyon was in 1965. In 1965, around September, from summer up into September, Brother Branham came up here. He went up this trail right here, and it's not very visible from this location, but he went up there, and as he got up to the top of the trail forks. Now, we didn't understand how it forked or why it forked, because when Brother Greene had gone to Brother Branham during this same time period, Brother Branham was sitting on his porch at 3910 North Park Avenue. This is the duplex that Brother Branham had rented from Sister Larson and Brother and Sister Larson. And when Brother Greene walked up to Brother Branham was facing the west. And as Brother Branham was facing the west, he said, "Brother Greene, you remember last week when I was so sick?" And Brother Greene said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Well, the Lord met me up on the trail," and Brother Branham went like that. Now, Brother Greene didn't understand why he did that and why he motioned behind his head, but he was pointing back around to the east. And it was just something that Brother Greene just basically cataloged in his memory. It wasn't until after Brother Branham passed away that Brother Greene asked Brother Billy Paul, said, "Brother Billy Paul, your dad mentioned that he had taken some snapshots up here." And Brother Billy Paul said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "The last couple of these photos, Brother Perry, is pictures of me and my family." He said, "Would it be possible that I could look at those photos?" And Brother Billy Paul said, "Of course." So Brother Greene looked at the photos, saw all the different rocks, formations, and things that Brother Branham had taken pictures of. And when he noticed one of the pictures, one of the pictures that he took clicked with what he had said on the message "On the Wings of a Snow White Dove," preached in Shreveport, Louisiana in November of 65. Brother Branham talked about several instances that took place up here. One of those, he said he had a vision of himself, because every 7 years Brother Branham was very, very sick. And in this vision, he sees this little furry animal. This little furry animal would jump into his mouth and like run around into his stomach, and it would just tear him up. He'd been to Mayo Clinic, he'd been to all kind of doctors, his own personal doctor, and every one of them agreed that there was no way for Brother Branham to take any kind of a medicine, or there was no kind of a cure or anything possible. And in this particular vision, when he looked out the window, he saw himself up on this trail. And while he was up on this trail, he saw this, he felt like there was something in a tree, and so he took a stick and rubbed this tree, and this little object or furry animal jumped at Brother Branham, missed his mouth this time, hit his chest, and landed on a cholla cactus. And a voice spoke to him and said, "Your enemy is now dead." Now, all these years, Brother Branham had prayed and sought the Lord for deliverance from this. And it wasn't until he was 56 years old, 1965, that God delivered him. When he came up here in fulfillment of that particular vision, he came up here and he parked. And see, in those days, you could drive up here in Sabino Canyon. You can no longer drive here. You have to take a tram. So we have to actually pay to come up here, but it's a lot better than walking up almost 4 miles. So anyway, so he came up here, and when he came up here, he said, I was going in a certain direction, and I came into a cove-like area. And in this cove-like area, Brother Branham said, I came and I saw a little white dove sitting there. And I spoke to him, and I said, oh, you know, what are you doing here? And all of a sudden, he said, I felt the presence of the Lord. He said, I jerked my hat off. And he said, when I did, I felt his presence come on me. And I knew that I was getting close. He said, I continued to walk on the trail. And on this particular trail is 2 very, very large rocks. And Brother Branham had told Brother Greene and Brother Harold Marconda, look, when you get up on the trail, you'll find these 2 big rocks. He said, in that area, on the trail, is where the little furry animal had speared itself on a cactus. And when Brother Branham walked along the trail, he saw this little furry animal. It was dead, laying there, in fulfillment of that vision that he'd had. Another incident is where he said he was going up towards Mount Lemon. And he said he was on his way back. He had his little .22 rifle. It was very, very hot. He said what he did is that he took his rifle, leaned it up against the rock, and he took his shirt off, and he pressed his chest up against this rock because the rock was still cool. And he had talked about going down into the creek area and coming back up on the trail. And when he pressed his chest up on the rock, he said these words. He said, "There written in white quartz." They said there written in the rock was the word White Eagle quartz. So we had basically some things that Brother Branham said on tape. We had some things that Brother Branham told other brothers personally. Plus, we had some pictures. Brother Greene took all of this information, and it wasn't until March of 1966 that he and Brother Harold McClintock came up into the Sabino Canyon. They parked their car in this same area where we are right now. They went up the trail, and they went back towards the west, towards Mount Lemon, because that's one of the things that they had in print, and they knew that they could, if they went that area, they could probably find this word White Eagle. And so they spent several hours sketching different markings on different rocks, and they were just looking and looking and looking, and finally Brother Greene had gone on ahead of Brother Harold. While Brother Harold was staying behind, Brother Greene turned, and when he turned, he looked up into the mountainside, and he saw this eagle formation. He recognized that formation due to one of the pictures that Brother Branham took of that formation, and in the picture was also a part of a mesquite branch. So he knew that Brother Branham had to be standing right about here when he took that photo. And so Brother Greene turned around to tell Brother McClintock, I think I found a place where Brother Branham was standing. And when he turned, he said, hey, Brother Harold. And he turned like that. And when his eyes turned around, there written in front of him on the rock was the word eagle in white quartz. And Brother Harold thought Brother Greene had either been bitten by a snake or something had happened, you know. And so he come running down, what's wrong with Brother Greene? What's wrong? He said, look what the Lord has allowed us to find. And there on a pyramid-shaped 70-ton rock was the word eagle in white quartz. And it looked like a child had put it on there. And they looked down and they noticed that there on the trail there was some drill marks. And we're going to show you these drill marks when you get up there. But this particular rock evidently had covered the whole trail. And in order to make the trail, they blasted that rock in half, and the other half lays down below about 25 yards. And you can actually still see that rock. Nobody's going to move it. And those are the events that took place here in Sabino. So we're going to start our tour, and the first place that we're going to go today is we're going to go to Eagle Rock, what we call Eagle Rock.